Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. I am your host, Kelly Meehan, a citizen of the universe and a passage keeper and mentor for our new Earth children. I believe we are entering into a new psychic structure of our reality, and it is meant to embody deeper trust and ways into solid self-love and fearless integrity. Our new world energy of spirit babies needs us to consciously create within conception, trust pregnancy, and have freedom to birth and parent from innate wisdom. This is Spirit Baby Radio. Welcome to episode 215, May 2025, the new Earth children of today. Join us as we share real, personal Spirit Baby stories that carry messages of love, hope, connection, and truth. In this space, my plan is to blend the metaphysical, the spiritual, and the science of life to explore profound connections to our everyday existence. Today, I am honored to welcome special guest Devin, an expert in motherhood. Welcome. That's the title everybody's getting. They're the experts in motherhood. So welcome.
I love that. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
And I know we were just we've connected before, and you could share whatever you want. I don't want to give anything away. But
hmm
you heard the call of Spirit Baby Stories, and we want to hear, yeah, what has been your journey and what is your connection?
Yeah, my journey has been one that is long, one that is very trying, and now I'm finally so excited to share my story because I'm sitting here 37 weeks pregnant, about to pop, and it's been a wild journey. So, yeah, just starting from the beginning, as I was growing up, I was never really that spiritual. And as a kid, I really was tapped in and I had all these imaginary friends and I had such a wild imagination. And, I kind of grew out of that just from conditioning and from, growing up. Um, and then in my 20s, yeah, I had that extra sense that I was spiritual. I just didn't know what capacity I was spiritual in. And I never wanted kids, which was the really interesting thing. I never wanted them. And I never really had that maternal urge to become pregnant. So, that changed. And in my 30s, I had this sudden urge to be a mom. And my sister had passed. Um, and I felt like if I created this new life, a piece of her would come back and be
Mm,
her side and be on this energy plane. So I think that was around that time that I really started dropping into my spirituality, finding Reiki, finding sound therapy healing. I really dove in to try to heal myself through my sister's death. And also, I felt like I wanted to be a mom. I felt like these spirit babies were nearby, these energies. I didn't know what it was yet. But the more I dropped into my spirituality through all these different modalities, I knew that I had an understanding of what my gifts were, and I was able to sense and breathe this energy around people a lot more in my clients. Um, so yeah, and the story continues.
yeah, I hear what you're saying about a lot of people that come into this space have that childhood, like your extrasensory perception, it's there, and maybe it got dormant for a while. And then, of course, with loss, it's so tragic. It's like, holding that energy. And I know there's some deeper energy in that with your baby being coming into this reality, right? And your connection to your family. And I too, by the way, and I know many that tune into this, I never had a dream of motherhood, by the way. And many people know that until I was in actually was 30 and I was studying a little bit of Somatic, well, not studying a little bit. I was in a program like a master's in somatic psychology, and there was pre-perinatal, but I was very like, I want to see that, I want to see that. And it kind of like a little bit. And I realized that then I hit like mid-30s and I was like, what if I'm like my fear was so big, it's like, but what if I'm avoiding something out of fear? Like, can I just be open and see what wants to come through? And then, of course, now I have two Earth child sons. So I totally feel you. And I know others really understand that because some people dream about it, right? And other people are like, it just comes to us. And it shows to me as like a creative force, right? It's like we're so changing and we can be in one space or another. But I want you, yeah. So share more with us about this story into pregnancy.
Yeah, so from there on, I really did feel this soul orbiting me. And I really felt as I dove into this spiritual practice and really rediscovered the spirituality in my adult life, I remember feeling that I wanted to get pregnant. And my husband and I started trying. And this was probably in 2019 or 2000, no, 2022. Um, Now I can't even remember, but somewhere around there, 2022. And we started trying. And I remember I felt her orbiting me, this soul orbiting me for a really long time. And months even before she was coming, I would say things like, I know she's coming in September when we go on our honeymoon. And I just knew, like, okay, she's dropping in. And I felt this really strong, powerful
Mm.
feminine energy. Um, and sure enough, I got pregnant on our honeymoon when we were in Mykonos in September. And I felt the soul literally enter my body. I jolted awake and I felt this baby come through. And it was just like this powerful force. And I just knew at that moment that I was pregnant. And I could just tell there was another life in there. I felt this other energy. And then, we dove into, me being pregnant and learning all the things. I didn't know anything about my womb. I really like hadn't tapped into that yet. I just thought it was easy to become pregnant. And then we found out that we actually lost the baby about 7 weeks later. So we had a miscarriage, and that really shook me in so many different ways. And I was definitely being tested. So many parts of me were tested, and it really felt like the trauma from losing my sister came back out. And it was just a lot to process, so much grief and layers of acceptance. And that was a really hard one for me, especially. I know a lot of your listeners too have probably felt this who had a miscarriage. It's like you feel this soul inside of you, this life inside of you, and then they leave. And that's all you can think about is getting that feeling back and just wanting that feeling back and just really doing anything to feel that again because it's so powerful and it's such a miracle. Um, so after that time, after the miscarriage, we tried every month religiously. We did all the things. We were tracking, we went to the doctors, we went to IVF specialists. I went to an IVF specialist because none of the doctors around here could help me, and they referred me out. So the IVF specialist then told me I had um, the lowest AMH they've ever seen, that I was premenopausal.
Um,
I better start going for intervention then and there on my next period. And I knew at that moment it wasn't for me. And I got really upset. I said, that's not fair to
mm,
project that on your patients. But also, yeah, I knew deep within, it's like my intuition was telling me no.
mm,
So I held off and I said, I'll come back to this in 6 months if it doesn't work. And then I dove into every modality I knew. I did, at that time I was training to be a Reiki master. So I was tapping into the energies. I was reading about spirit babies. I was tuning into my spirit baby, asking for answers, and really like tapping into that energy. And I was doing acupuncture. I was on a whole protocol with my naturopath and my nutritionist. And so I was doing literally everything and getting so down every month when I would get my period. And it was at that time also, I was trying to help a woman and be authentic and tap into the womb space, but really that was a lesson for me that I needed to learn, all about releasing trauma in the womb space and really healing my lineage and going through all the tissues and neuroplasty in the womb and just clearing that space and making room for a spirit to come in and feel safe there. And yeah, there were so many layers looking back of surrender that I needed to overcome. And it was so deep. Like, I just needed to really trust myself. And trust was the message I kept getting the whole journey. And it was like, that is really what the spirit baby was showing me was if you do any intervention, it almost will prolong this process.
Oh, can we just put a spotlight on that for a moment? Because this is something that I don't think many women are aware of. That's,
Hmm.
and it is a really tricky place. I'm not minimizing. It's like, ooh, do I, go into this intervention, which can derail the journey? And I know that scares women, but you said something too. You're like 6 months. So after 6 months, where were you at? Were you like, I'm going to do intervention? Where you're like, something else told you something different?
Yeah, after 6 months, something else told me different, and I kept prolonging. Yeah.
And again, I know IVF is really, it's such a powerful intervention now, and it's no guarantee or promise as well.
Mm.
And it is a very, so you're going in, you're doing like, I feel like a lot of women are like, we do everything. Like, I'm doing that, which is like, because we have to find our way, I feel like, and our energy is always changing, right? And it sounds like, so yeah, keep telling us more. Then what happens next?
Yeah, so I'm doing all the things, right? Going through it. And it was now, this is probably 3 years in, and we had seen another naturopath, and she had prescribed me progesterone. And, you know, she told me that I had really low progesterone. She doesn't look at the AMH, which was interesting, but she said we should try progesterone hormone, the pill capsules. And so I was taking those. I broke out in this horrible rash all over my body. So then she then said that I had um, an autoimmune disease in reaction to progesterone in my own body. So my own body was
Oh,
actually attacking its own progesterone. But again, I didn't believe her. And my husband was like, this is not real. Like, you're getting a
mm,
period. And I just really knew deep down, like, oh, I feel like the spirit baby's close. And I feel like, again, like, I shouldn't listen and trust my body. And that was just the message I kept getting is like deeply just trust. And so, I always felt the spirit baby whenever I tuned in. I would do meditations every morning and try to connect to the womb space. And I was really getting clear messages on, trust my body. And whenever I doubted myself, I would see like little rainbows, little signs like butterflies. And um, I even had actually going back a little bit, a womb healing done by this woman in Big Sur.
mm,
And she connected with my spirit baby. She said that their energy is this emerald color, this deep emerald. And I would really sense that around me whenever I would look, I would see
Oh, yeah.
everywhere specks of emerald in my peripheral. And um, yeah. So fast forward 3 years later, this practitioner, this naturopath is telling me, you need to do IVF at this point. We can't help you. We can't help you. The next intervention would be IVF. So then that was August in 2024. And I knew in my heart that IVF was still not my path. And I, what I surrendered to at that point was if this baby really wanted to come in, then it would.
Mm,
And, I think you and I actually had a call as well. And you said this little gentle boy soul would come through. And it's so interesting because I thought it was a girl this whole time. But anyways, um, yeah, and this message was that I needed to just fully surrender in my own time and doing it my own way. And so, yeah, right after she had told me my progesterone was too low, I needed to do
mm,
the next step, IVF, I got pregnant. And it was such a shock at that time because I had all these people telling me it would not happen.
wow.
And it actually happened. And it was truly at that time where I full body surrendered to that outcome, the outcome that I decided I wouldn't do any interventions. And that isn't for me. Maybe it's for someone else who has been trying, but I just knew this baby needed time.
Time, yes. And I'm sure, it wasn't easy, of course. It's like you're like, okay, you feel the energy of trust, but then the time was like coming and coming. And
More years were passing, and I was like, how in the world is this going to happen? But
how do you hold patience and surrender in that, would you say?
oh, it was so hard. I think that was like one of my life's biggest lessons. And I knew I would be here trying to help women one day and guide them through this process. And I kind of could sense that would be something I would be helping people with. And that was part of my journey. But the patience was probably one of the hardest lessons I've ever learned in my life.
Mm. You're like, yeah.
It did. It took a lot. I'm not going to lie. It was definitely really hard, but I really worked through it in my life, and I really made an effort to have so much fun and really live every moment to its fullest and do the things I really wanted to do and travel and explore, go to Bali. I did all the things that I wanted to do, and
Mm,
I really dropped in. And I wouldn't say I feel like with this journey, everyone tells you to surrender, but
mm.
you can't ever feel that unless you can do it yourself. No one can tell you that.
It's so true with surrender. I try to give people an idea of surrender more kinesthetically. I say, like, lay on the bed and pillows, blankets, just lay there and really feel, is your body surrendering to the bed? Like, you could play around with this, by the way. And if you realize when we lay on our bodies in the bed, like we're tense. Our bodies don't fully like lay. And I feel like it brings you into going, oh my gosh, like, and then you breathe and you lay there and it's like, oh, all of a sudden my shoulder melts into the pillow. I feel like, or I tell others to go like, I almost feel like spontaneity and surrender kind of could go together. I like to pair them together, but like just wake up one day and walk out the door and surrender to the day. Like no plans, no like I'm gonna go do this and go to my usual place or do my usual thing. Like surrender to the not knowing of it, right? It's like it's tricky, but you're right. It's like I feel like we have to trick our psychology a little bit and our body to play around. But I could, I could imagine because I've worked with many different women and men where they're like, what's happening? Like month after month, year after year. And I worked with somebody specifically, and I've heard stories where, intervention is off the table. Like maybe they go and they go, okay, like, all right, I'm giving it a look, see, let's see. And what we know about medical fertility clinics, it's whatever's in their scope of practice. So someone's going to be hung up on numbers, someone's going to be hung up on ovaries, someone's going to be hung up on sperm. That's just how that works. But even though they get hung up on whatever their specific area is, our frequencies of energy, what are we attracting in those people? What are we building? And I feel like a lot of men and women want to see that. They want to go, okay. And then you get to decide what that looks like, right? You get to then move. And this one particular woman I'm thinking of, she had a lot of physiological, structural energy around trauma. You're not going to get that from the doctor, no matter how many times we're going to try to, oftentimes, yeah, there can be a manipulation of IV and a force, and the baby's not coming, the baby's not coming, and then it puts the woman in a difficult situation of more stuff to unwind. And there's deeper layers to the journey for sure. But when I see this, I'm thinking of this one woman. It was like, one baby comes, another baby, all of a sudden, but it was a long, like many years, but she felt like in her heart, you know what? Everybody's saying IVF, and it made her feel bad, kind of, right? Because people are like, well, just go do this. And then you're like, but that doesn't feel aligned. And it's like, oh, but get over it. It's going to be okay. But it's like, whoa, like IVF is not to be taken lightly, as I say. This feels more like serious to me than just nonchalant, right? Like, well, let me really sit with that. Let me go into the quiet spaces because I've seen where IVF can be really beneficial. I've seen is, oh, there's no fallopian tubes. Like
Mhm.
to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's no fallopian tubes. So you have a great uterus. So what's that look like? Or sometimes even often solo conceptions, like how am I going to get pregnant? Or thinking of the different interventions. But when they say age and all, and even endometriosis is not it's not, could be an obstacle to navigate, but it's not a shutdown of that's it, you're done. I really can't stand the age thing. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's so fake. Listen, everybody, it's false. It's completely fake. If they're like, we'll do IVF because of your age, if somebody says that to you, you better run in the opposite direction because they don't know what they're doing.
hmm Yeah, I completely felt that too. And yes, there is a medical side and it can do beautiful things for people, but also there's the energetic side. And that's a huge piece of it. And I was doing a lot of hypnotherapy work too.
Wow.
And I had all these self-preservations. I wanted to hold on to these beliefs because it helped me feel safe at one point and protected, but I had to let go of these old
Mhm.
stories that actually weren't even serving me anymore about, getting pregnant, having a miscarriage, not being able to hold on to this birth or pregnancy. And that was a big clearing that I was doing a lot leading up to the pregnancy. And then, throughout this process, I was deeply connected to my sister and also
Mhm.
she was guiding, the whole time. She was guiding this entire conception journey. And I'll just tell the story too, really quick. So, right before I conceived, or actually, I think I was pregnant but didn't know, in August 2024, um, I had this dream that my sister was like 9 months pregnant and it was on her birthday and she was huge and beautiful. And my mom and I were just rubbing her belly. And I just remember thinking, that's so incredible that you're carrying this life. Like, I can't believe I'm seeing you pregnant. And it was just amazing. I woke up and I was like, wow, that is so amazing. I got to just experience that. And I remember later in the day, I was talking to my aunt, and she had asked me if I ever had dreams about my sister. We were just reflecting about her because it was
Wow.
her birthday. And I told her about this dream, and she said, your baby, Devin. And I was like,
We
wow.
say that again. It blanked out for some reason. It froze for a second.
Oh, she said, that's your baby, Devin. And
Wow.
like, wow, she's right, And sure enough, I
Oh,
was pregnant then, but I didn't know it.
I love that.
I didn't find out for another week or so, but it's just all these like little messages. She was orchestrating this and just
Yes.
it goes to show you that it's not just medical, it's like this energetic piece, it's a spiritual piece. It's like on the other side, you don't know what they're orchestrating, you don't know what karma that has to be completed, and they're working on something so separately from you.
Mm,
And our journeys, like what our timelines are not connected to theirs. It's so
mm,
different. And I think that was also a big learning for me was like, wow, it's actually not up to me. Like they are orchestrating so pure, and these souls that are coming in are so pure of like crystalline
mm.
energy, and they're just so amazing and new earth souls that they need to feel like this karmic tie they're coming into is complete.
Wow. I love, I'm just going to go back to sister love, sibling love, how like she's sharing with you and you're coming to you. Look, I'm pregnant. You're pregnant. It's like there's such a connection to the sister energy, but also it got your attention because you're paying attention, right? It was you if you were pregnant in the dream, you'd be like, whatever, right? But it's like, to me, when you said that, it felt so beautiful, actually. It felt like an initiation, like she was showing you, but she was showing you her. Like you're literally pregnant together,
Mhm.
right? And we're going to go, yeah, beyond space and time for a moment, that those that are within another dimensional space, why can they not do that, you know? And I mean, it's so gorgeous that you just shared that with, I'm getting chills with all of us because we are honoring of that. We're in a love space with that because it's just blowing my mind because it's like, wow, like I never would have thought that way, but that to me makes sense actually. Like stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And there's some like protective energy with her and your child and whatever soul journey she shares with him, right? Will be special. Are you naming? I'm so like, are you named like is her name going to be a part of his name or no?
I've been thinking about that, and yeah, we want to try and weave it in because we know she's so a part of him.
Yeah.
I can
I
just,
mean, I almost feel like you're gonna weave it in. That's why that's a good way of saying it. Weave in. I was like, is her name a part of his name somehow in the middle? Um, yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Aw.
yeah, and it's so funny because when I do tune into this soul, he has like that same personality as her, that silliness,
Love that.
very playful but wise, and also very feminine.
Mm-hmm. Remember, sensitive boys do have more of their feminine energy intact. And I know because remember, I said my second one was had everyone thought he was girl energy. Really. And I could see why, because my first was really strong, fiery, motorcycle off the roof boy energy. And there's something about our softer, sensitive boys. They see things differently. They hear. They're still wild boys, but they're not super chaotic wild. They're more like just they're different, you know. They play well with boys and girls. They play really well with girls because they're more like like mellow. Whereas I noticed with having a high energies boy, like it took a really special girl for him to play with as a kid. Like she had to be running and jumping off of trees, like. But I love that. Yeah, every spirit baby, soul baby comes in, you can literally feel it. And when you meet your child Earthside, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is who they are. And they're going to show you more newer things too, of course, which they're supposed to. But I pretty much feel like the baseline of it, like when I think of my boys in pregnancy, how they talk to me and communicated through energy, and how they come to be born in their bodies now at 14 and 8 years old now. It is who they were as babies, by the way. It really is. So those that are like listening in, that's what I call a soul personality. That is your you will see that. Like you can see it in conception, in especially in pregnancy, and you'll be like, "Oh, yeah, of course." You'll be like, "There it is."
I can totally see that and just sense it now. Just like the stubbornness, because right now he's breached, and I'm like, turn. And
Oh, yeah.
It's totally his sign already. And by the way, he did end up coming in May. Emerald is the birthstone.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, and my
Oh, that's
husband got him
right.
an emerald necklace
Oh my
without
gosh.
knowing just all these little things, right? But he's definitely that grounded, comfortable soul who doesn't want to move. And again, the message is like, just trust me because trust is what got us here.
Yeah, and I always like this energy that breach is a different variation of birth.
Mhm.
And sometimes babies do change, suddenly shift, but sometimes they don't. And babies can be born that way. I mean, I think more you're lucky because you live in an area where there's really top people in the more home birth, like, community and or even, Dr. Stu, Dr. Stu, right? He he's part of a podcast. Gosh, now I don't remember the name of the podcast, but he's talked about that with Dr. Berlin, reteaching breach, and this whole thing. Like my mind is scattered, but I remember years ago when my son was young, like I would go and protest with them, and I saw the films, and I was like the birth advocate. So I know there's a whole. Just so you know, there is a whole space that works with that and holds that. It's here, but I know, yeah, there's feelings around it, but you're right. You're trusting it and seeing whatever's kind of unfolding, right?
Exactly. And that has been the message. So we just have to continue trusting. And, even with having this birth, you're in the unknown, just like you were
Yes.
in the beginning. It's like really stepping into all those gates of transformation and just really
Mm.
sitting in that period of being in the unknown. And yes, it's scary, but like really coming back to that warrior part of you that's like, I can do this. I can freaking do this.
I remember really when I was pregnant with my first, and I had a blessing way from a friend, and one of the things she said to me, and it stuck with me forever, was, you know what, Kelly? You're going to go into birth and you're going to feel like for a moment that you can't do it. That's when the baby comes. I
Mm.
was like, what does she mean? And then I realized after two births, is like, you do feel, I don't know if I feel like I couldn't do it. I knew I had to do it. To me, it's like climbing the mountain. Like I'm in altitude with a backpack. Like I'm going to get there. Take a break, take a breath. I'm going to get there. And you do. And birthing is just, I really feel like it's moments. It's not like years. But we're in the moment. There's so much happening, and I just had this long talk about natural birthing and oxytocin with a friend, and it was wild because he's older and he's doesn't have kids, but he was like so like asking me these questions and so in awe with like the things we don't talk about in the culture of birth is we have something called oxytocin and hormones that literally is your natural epidural. And it's like, what do you mean? It's like there's something that happens when we're in that quiet space to hear our own bodies actually know how to nourish us. And I know it's different for everybody. And I know the culture of birth has told us otherwise. And then the birth unfolds, like you said, it's like you show up and it just kind of it does its own thing with you. It's like you and baby. But what I do know is in spirit communication, really pre-birth communication for you at this point is like you are have synergy between each other and that when you come to the birth and I did this a lot with my second, we were in communication and that's why everything just kind of aligned and I felt like I was listening and just working with my body, working with my own fears and my own issues, right? Because we bring our own stuff to the connection, and the baby's just like, all right, I'm like doing this. But it's to me, it's a relationship, not one or the other. It's not just about mom, it's not just about baby, and we're not even talking about partner at this point, but it's just that birth space. But I always took that with me coming back to like, yeah, like you just show up. And then you see what happens and you see where it goes. And it can be, it's labor, it's called labor for a reason, but I feel like there's also really beauty inside it. There's, what you're calling in and you're just, yeah, listening. And especially the weeks before you start, hibernating and going to dreamy spaces and really protective of your energy is really important. I feel like it's like you start to feel it And I call it spiritual dilation, where I was like, oh, the energy split. And honestly, spiritual dilation is something I made up. But it correlates with physical dilation oftentimes because it's like the energy, like you said earlier, it's like the energy field changes. So the body is just preparing and opening. And what a perfect time to have a baby, spring.
Exactly. I know. And oh, all that is so beautiful. I feel that so deeply. It's like that synergy that you have to have with the soul. And it's like, okay, that's the whole time you've been communicating since before you were in my body. And, it's so special that you can carry that throughout the
Yes.
labor and the birth too, just knowing the soul already. And I feel like if I hadn't gone through this process, just reflecting on all those years of not being able to conceive, I wouldn't feel as connected to this.
Mm.
I wouldn't feel that really strong energy between us, that getting to know each other and waiting for him to drop in and just really understanding his soul, his purpose, and what he's doing here on earth. And I would not feel that deeply with him. So, in retrospect, it was a gift. And I can only say that now.
Well, I love that. It's so beautiful. And I want to hear any fun little messages that you're getting right now from baby boy.
Yeah. The messages are that he is still, we have this like really push and pull energy together, and like he's full of surprises and he's coy, but like he's also, I love how he sends me reminders that even though for a while I was like, well, I don't have that girl energy, I
Mm,
gotta be a boy mom, and I was really kind of worried about it. And the messages he kept telling me was that just trust me, mom. And also, I am going to be that healer baby that comes in
mm.
and that follows you on retreats. And we're going to go travel the world. And, he has this like beautiful um, smile and piercing eyes that just like calm and sense, energy around. He's very intuitive. So, I just love getting those little messages from him when I can tune into it and really go to that space with him.
Mm. I love that. Well, we're coming up to the end here, and any final words for maybe, someone out there like feeling struggling or like, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that space is definitely um, embarking on, it's going to test all parts of you, and it will bring up so much of your endurance and your will for life and just like your purpose of being, and really just understand that your journey is so separate from anyone else's, and trusting that your body can do it, and it's so possible no matter what anyone says. It's so possible for you, and to just be in that understanding of connection with your own body, your womb space, and the spirit baby that's going to drop in. Because if you want it, I believe it can happen.
Ah, I love it. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story, sharing your heart, sharing your baby being with us all. And of course, we send you off with much blessings. I know you will stay in touch with me. But thank you so much again for sharing.
Thank you, Kelly. Such an honor.
And I want to thank you all for joining Spirit Baby Stories and tuning into the real and personal Spirit Baby stories that I hope empowered your own way with love, connection, and truth. And this is episode 215, May 2025. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio with your host, me, Kelly Meehan. Please join my community and stay in touch with monthly energy rants, Spirit Baby poetry, and get access to Spirit Baby 101 with tips and practices at my newsletter at newearthchildren.com. And join me on Instagram with lives at Spirit Baby Medium, and join the Mighty Networks, the Spirit Baby Collective membership, and Motherhood to Mediumship. Remember, you are the heart that holds communication, and it is your time to connect. Come share in the great shift of your mind and the true spirit of your heart with Spirit Baby Communication.